Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm in New York, and we have a Kate and Roy, and we are happy to have my shiatsu friends here at the Saturday virtual gathering. Please, Kate, please introduce yourself, and please introduce Roy. We are super happy to invite both of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm delighted to be here on Zoom with Ray. Ray was my inspiration back in the early 90s. And yeah, I started in 1989, but Ray taught me sort of in 1990, 91, 93, and then into teacher training in 93. And yeah, I was always inspired by Ray's approach to teaching. He was an excellent teacher, and his approach to exercise. I mean, he used to give me fantastic shiatsus, and now he's in Australia. That's something I miss, not being able to get a shiatsu from Ray. His treatments were brilliant, and I'm sure they still are.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing work, combining just all the excellence of shiatsu, you know, combining cranial techniques with the Subo work, with mobilization. So an amazing practitioner. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today was exercise. And so,
oh, good.
Yeah, I'd love you to tell me a little bit about your philosophy, Ray, living longer, younger.
That's correct, yeah. Okay, fabulous. And I would just like to say that, look, you know, Kumiko Kate was an outstanding student in our school, and we saw her potential and her talent and invited her to join a teacher training program, and then she became a essential part of our teaching staff, and then went on from there. So she's been very influential, and I think the way we operated, this was the British School of Shiatsu-Do, was that we had a lot of interaction between all of the teachers, and we all shared, and no one was really solely in the position of being the teacher. We all shared philosophies and techniques and laughed a lot, had a lot of great fun times training each other, presenting to each other, and helping each other upskill all the time. I think that was the essential thing. And in 2002, Susanna and I, my wife and I, left the UK, and we actually passed on the British School of Shiatsu-Do to one of our other senior teachers, Hilary Tota, and Kate continued to work with Hilary and support that school. So we moved to Sydney in Australia, and then 6 years later we moved up here to what's called the Gold Coast. So we live at the beach. It's full of sun and surf and sand, and it is now midwinter here, and some people are still walking around in shorts. So yeah, that's winter in Australia. It's like that. So look, for me, yeah, I now I have my own clinic, and it's called Living Longer Younger Clinic, and I promote it as practicing functional energy medicine. So it's really combining all of the knowledge I've gathered over the years, and Susanna and I did a lot of research, experimenting, experiencing, and with the modalities of the shiatsu. I started with Macrobiotic shiatsu, study with Ohashi sensei. Many times we would have him come to London and do workshops with us. We studied primarily Zen Shiatsu in our school, and then Susanna and I both studied Cranio-Sacral Therapy, and I'd already done other treatment modalities beforehand, so really we combined that and we called it Shiatsu-Do. So that was the brand name we gave what we were doing. So these days in the clinic, I still do about 20 treatments a week, part-time, if you like, doing that. But I do a lot of, shiatsu and cranial work. So sometimes I'm on a futon on the floor, and sometimes I'm working on a table. It's a bit easier for the cranial work. And I treat from 2-week-old babies to, I think my eldest has been about 94-year-old people. So the range is quite dynamic, and that keeps me very enthusiastic with what I'm doing. Now, my clinic is actually situated inside of a gym, a sports gym. And over the years, it's just eventuated that we really attract like a 40-year plus membership. So in fact, a lot of our current members are 50s and 60s. Our oldest member is 78. She comes to my classes still. And so out of that, I really, well, the demand was there to start teaching exercise. And so we branded it called EnergisedYou. And so EnergisedYou is a combination of our Do-In type exercises and Qigong exercises and little bits of Tai Chi. And so in that, we have a lot of fun as well. In fact, I tend to start my classes on that philosophy of, if we do a lot of shaking, flicking out, moving the energy work for a few minutes just to get ourselves warmed up. And I'm usually playing, well, yesterday I was playing Nutbush by Tina Turner. And so we were dancing to that. And I tell them this is, I'm going to put on an ancient Oriental song, and then I'll put on Nutbush or Jailhouse Rock or something from, really active and moving. And we do a lot of that. And then we will put on the Qigong style music, and we'll go into our more formal Qigong exercises as well. So out of that, and the clinic that I'm working in, because I do tend to work with a more mature audience, I guess, is the idea most of the time. So even of the small children, I'm treating their parents as well. So, and Kumiko, I don't know if you won't be aware of this, but my first career was as a lawyer. And so in fact, I was a divorce lawyer. And so I actually am now utilizing some of that skill and knowledge, because I quite often work with couples or one party in a couple, the male, the female in the couple, as they're going through difficult times in their marriage. And so I end up doing what I call life strategy work with people as well. And everything, whether it's a life strategy about their relationship, whether it's a life strategy about their health and well-being, it all comes down to making better daily health choices. And so really it's just education. And I just start with people and tell them, look, what's the most essential nutrient that you need to survive? And they'll think about that. They may say different things, but I'll tell them it's air, it's oxygen. This is the first thing we need to survive. Most of us can't go more than several minutes without oxygen. So, and I quite often ask people in my classes, so what do you think is the longest time, the record for holding the breath? Kate, Kumiko, anyone got an idea of how long someone could possibly hold their breath?
5 minutes?
5 minutes? Yeah, that'd sound awesome if you could hold your breath for 5 minutes. Kate, got an idea?
Yeah, I'm thinking of those divers with their monofins.
Deep sea, free diving.
Free diving, that's the word, yeah.
Throw out a number.
Oh,
How many minutes?
7.
7. Wow, who could survive 7 minutes? It's actually 21. 21 minutes is the world record of holding breath. Yeah, all recorded in a pool. And I was just amazed with that. The longest I've done is 4.5 minutes myself in my practice. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. But breathing is the key essential. And as we know, with the lungs and the large intestine, that combination, that Zhang Fu combination, that's the filter, the first stage of filtering, taking from external to internal. And of course, in our current climate as well, we take in any external pernicious influence, maybe in forms of viruses, etc. And if our lung chi is not filtering well enough, well, we may succumb to that. So I tell them the first one is water. Sorry, the first one is air. The second one, of course, is water. So how many days can we go without proper and effective hydration? And so once again, maybe it's 3 days without drinking anything at all, and you're going to be suffering internal organ damage during that time, maybe 4, maybe 5 before you actually expire. And I ask people, so what's the next one? And most people will say food, which makes sense, doesn't it? We need air and we need water. We can see that. Well, don't we need nutrition next? But no, it's not nutrition. It's actually sleep. Sleep is the next essential element, because if we're not sleeping, we might survive 7 or 8 days. Any of us who are parents have dealt with sleep deprivation. Yeah, we've been there. It can be so debilitating. A string of nights without good quality sleep can just upset all of your internal functions and your mental state of being. So sleep is so important. Once again, if we have total sleep deprivation, we may be able to go 5, 6, 7 days, and in that time we've got organs collapsing, irreparable damage going on. How long can we go without food? I mean, this has been proven many times again by hunger strikers. You know, we 3 on this screen could probably go 25, 30, maybe 40 days without food. Yet in our society, which is the thing we give most priority to? Food. And so we've got it all back to front. And so part of my living longer, younger education is really getting things in the right order, getting things in the right sequence. And so for me, it's air, it's water, it's sleep, then it's exercise, and then it's nutrition. And if we can get a proper balance of all those things and just simply be making better choices about those things as well, well, I think we're really setting ourselves up as a foundation for living a longer and more dynamic life. Now, of course, I encourage people to build in body work and self-treatment in that. And, I want them to come for treatments as well to set them on a path. But as I will tell people, and, we used to go through this in school with our teachers, etc. I mean, my role as a practitioner is so that you don't have to continue seeing me, is to get you on board to sort of like help relieve the pain and discomfort you may be coming in, stabilize and strengthen you so that you don't need me. Of course, some preventative maintenance is a good thing, but you don't need me all the time. And so I really think of, and I talk to people about having them creating a toolkit of their own so that in different circumstances, they're suffering a headache. Okay, well, what toolkit? What's in my toolkit that I can take out and deal with this headache? Well, perhaps I could do some deep breathing exercises and, switch over from fight and flight sympathetic mechanism to parasympathetic, to rest, digestion, regeneration. And I sell that a lot to people as well, because as my sign there says, it's holistic anti-aging. And I do talk to a lot of people about weight loss as well, and the fact that, if you're breathing better, you're going to be more alkalizing your blood. If you're drinking enough hydration, you're going to be particularly good quality water that's actually penetrating the cell wall, you'll be hydrating better and you'll be eliminating waste better. So proper hydration is actually a weight management tool for people as well. So I go into those type of things with people. And then, of course, we do talk about sleep, and we'll talk about meditation, breathing exercises to help them sleep as well. And I do teach deep sleep exercises. I'm also an encourager of power napping. Do you power nap, Kate?
I don't, no.
No, because we used to do it in the school. Like, I remember we used to teach it in some of the classes, power napping, a short, fast, but deep nap of 10 or 15 minutes with like a mantra going on in your head. I'm going to have a short, powerful, refreshing sleep for 10 minutes and set that little alarm clock in your head. And you wake up feeling refreshed. It's much more. Now, look, I'm a little older than you two. I'm about to turn 65 next month. So I quite like the odd nap, here and there. It's nice. I get down. Remember our body cushions, Kate?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got yours there. Well, I mean, I still actively use it. And if I'm having a break in the clinic, not surprising to find me face down on our body supporter, having a nap there. So for me, they're the key essentials. And then we talk about, wise, healthy nutrition with people. And look, we have a nutritionist in the gym who will talk about eating whole foods, and, you know, still people who come to the gym, they want to, quite often their aim is to lose weight. That's their first thing. And we have to re-educate them that the aim isn't to lose weight, it's actually to get healthy. And getting healthy, part of that process, you may be shedding pounds of fat and gaining toned muscle, in fact. So we talk to them about getting healthy in order to get fit. And that's why, you know, I'm sort of part of the funnel, the transition for people. So how's that? Is that a little start of what we do?
Yeah, it's really inspiring. I love hearing you talking, Ray. It's great. And one thing that I really notice is that ability you've got to make it accessible for anybody. So although you're, you know, you're bringing in the Western philosophies into philosophy, so it's very accessible for people. You know, when you're talking about chi, you're talking about chi, but you're talking about food and
yeah.
I really like that. And I guess that really attracts a wider range of people to the gym.
Well, that's right. It does make it understandable for people. I mean, I slowly introduce chi and chi stagnation and blood stagnation into my exercise classes, so people are understanding what's happening there, and just get them to think about that. And, you know, for me, I just talk to them. I don't promote even my practice sessions in there. They'll just naturally come up to me and say, well, you know, I've got this problematic shoulder or my back, or what's happening here. And look, the thing I encourage the most is that when I'm treating parents and they're paying for treatments there, I encourage them to bring children along. So I actually give at least one free session to a child of one of my adult patients. So, because I'm encouraging them to bring their children along. And I don't know if you remember Kate, but, you know, I used to do a lot of work through pregnancy and attended childbirth, and I still do that on occasion. So I'm still treating pregnant women during pregnancy and post-pregnancy, and then treating their babies as well. And look, sometimes it's very moving whenever parents talk to me about their children who have been delivered by C-section instead of through the vaginal canal. I encourage them to bring them along for treatments, because certainly I've found in my practice, and, you know, there's lots of study on this, about their immune systems might be a little bit more challenged, so they might have more respiratory issues, might have, just generally speaking, more immune system, because they haven't passed through the birth canal and they haven't been covered in the birthing fluids, which actually acts as an initial, like, a reactor for the immune system of the body. And so when they've been taken out through an incision in the belly, they've not had a couple of things. They've not had the pressure applied to the cranium, you know, moving it and softening it up through the birth canal, and they've not been immersed in this bionomes, really, is what it is, over the body, which actually strengthens their immune system. And in fact, there are some places it's going on now that they are then swabbing birthing fluid and covering the child in the birthing fluid, even if they've been C-section. And so it's very interesting to have a couple of different modalities to bring in it as well. And so, of course, Kate does a lot of like Shintai work now, and we used to do Seitai, Shintai combinations. So I bring a lot of combination, basically anything out of my toolkit, my therapy toolkit, to bring to the patient that I'm treating at the time. And so whether that's cupping, whether that's moxibustion, whether it's little electrical pens that I use, all these sort of things that come into the process of treatment for me. My wife's staring at me.
Fantastic. And how does your sort of daily routine look like, Ray? How are you living longer, younger?
How am I living longer? Yeah, well, that's it. So for me, the essential thing is to walk the talk of what you're doing. And it really does. It's sort of, I get, when I see a therapist of any sort who looks unhealthy, who looks unhealthier than the people they're treating. And I think they're just, they're not living in a healthy environment themselves to get in that way, but they're portraying health and well-being to other people and not necessarily following that themselves. So, you know, here I'd like to say every day I go out for a morning walk. It's not every day. So 4 to 5 days a week we'll go out for a morning walk. But then I tend to, because I do martial arts, I do mixed martial arts, MMA, and I do jiu-jitsu. And I also train at the gym. So I'm teaching some classes. A couple of mornings a week I teach my EnergisedYou classes. I would say I will do 5 training sessions a week myself. So it's either going to be like a boxing. I sometimes teach a boxing class as well. I do boxing and kickboxing. I'll do jiu-jitsu 3 times a week. So like I went to, but part of it is also building a tribe. So I was at jiu-jitsu class this morning, and then usually we have what we jokingly call the old man's club. Because my coach, he's younger than me, he's 58, but he's a 6th Dan black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. One of the other black belts, he's a 71-year-old doctor, and we 3 quite often go for coffee afterwards just to, catch up, and we'll sometimes allow the younger ones to come with us as well. But we like to talk about, so what's hurting on you this week? And then we'll get on a roll of, what's hurting us. So we got my friend Brian, who's a doctor, straight empirical, prove it, otherwise it doesn't work. So we have quite a dynamic relationship. It's fun. He just rolls his eyes at most thing I say about health and well-being, although he did come to me for a course of treatments at one stage and said, yes, I guess I did feel a bit nicer. But that was about the limit of his expectation there. So I like to do a lot of exercise, get out in life and do that. Every Sunday morning, Susanna and I go for a more extended walking session, ending in a cafe somewhere, which is our date time. So we'll have a date cafe stop every Sunday, because this is also, it's the relationships, not just about your body work, it's about your relationship work. And frankly, Kate, I talk to a lot of people about the 5 love languages. And so I'm often doing that in regular conversations with people, but particularly when they're talking about, as I said, in relationships. And for me, it's always so surprising that people don't actually know how their partner likes to feel loved. Mm-hmm. Likes to know, oh, my partner actually loves me because they're spending some quality time with me. I say to people, not surprisingly, one of my love languages is touch. Assume the same thing for you, Kate. Assume the same thing for you, Kimiko. Is that we'd like to touch, and presumably we also like being touched as well. So it's our expression of love in the sense of I'm passionately in love with my wife, but it's also my extension of my love for just another human being that I have to treat. And I definitely remember, teaching you this, Kate, whether you remember these things or not, but it was for me is we would say to our students and our staff, when I'm with you for that 1 hour session, you're the most important person in the world to me. And sometimes for people to hear that, I say that, you're the most important person in the world to me for the next hour. And they start tearing up because no one's ever going to spend that quality time with them. And I think it's the power of what we do to change people's lives as well. I had one woman come to me for treatments, and she was in her 50s, and she didn't look like a well person. And she had 3 kids, and look, all the kids all ended up coming to me for treatments. They're all adults. But her story was that she'd been in a horribly abusive, domestic violent relationship. She had multiple broken bones, and she had left her husband 20 years before. And this woman was a nurse. And she came to me for treatments, and the first treatment, going through case history, she told me about all this, and I started treating her, and she was talking, and I said, so have you been in any other relationships since? And she said, no, you're the first man to touch me. And I sort of went, oh, no pressure there. And I thought, wow, that this woman, she came to me by referral, but this woman is sort of letting down her guard to let me, a male, touch her. And in fact, she became a long-term regular client, but she used to write little posts like, well, look, who needs to have a man in their life if they can just go to Ray for a treatment once a week? Yeah, okay, not the right message to be putting out there. But that was her thought. She had that touch satisfaction. So I think we have the ability, the capacity, and also that responsibility to touch people on so many deep levels. We are physically touching. Sometimes it's hard for people to realise. So, look, I'm going to be physically touching you, but I'm moving your energetic body, and it's getting that. And it's like after the treatment, they'll go, "Oh wow, yeah, okay, I see what you were saying. I feel what you were saying."
Yeah, because it's touching in a very deep level, isn't it? There's that.
Yeah.
Revealing all the stories in their life through one Shibo can really reveal a whole story of something that's been stored there, and that's really getting your hands into their life in an intimate way.
Indeed, yeah. Look, I have a weird diagnostic tool that I don't turn on, turn off, is that when I'm treating someone, I start to get a tickle in my throat and I start to cough, and just by experience, I know I'll ask them, so what are you holding back? What aren't you speaking? And inevitably say, yeah, they've got something that they're wanting to say to someone, not necessarily me, something they're wanting to express, and they're not speaking their voice, they're not speaking their truth. And I start coughing. And I say, come on, you've got to solve that, because I'm not going to stand here coughing for every session. And it's the way we use in diagnosis is so diverse from all the forms of diagnosis we use. I mean, we've all studied our visual diagnosis and our touch diagnosis and our hearing diagnosis and our smell diagnosis. But really, it's for me, when I get my hands on someone, I know I didn't actually have to ask them any questions, but it's sort of like the protocol, isn't it? They feel better when you ask them questions. And I think that's the key. So yeah, we have magic in our hands.
We do.
And it's a wonderful, satisfying thing to have, but it's also something we want to be very cautious about not to abuse as well.
I was reminded, Ray, so much of hearing you speak just reminds me of the basis of my philosophies, because you're my main teacher. But I was reminded when you said you're the most important person to me.
Listen, yeah.
I remember also, this is the best, as I sit down and I still do this is the best shiatsu I'm ever going to give.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's wonderful, because that comes from that sort of like Picasso interview, and he was asked, so which has been your best painting? Which is the best thing you've ever produced? And his response was, my next one. Yeah. So the next thing I do to create. And that's what you're referring to, I think. Yeah, this is it.
And being well in ourselves, like you're talking about, is part of that. As we sit there and we bring all of that health and wellness and vibration, clear vibration, empty our minds, be present in our bodies, be able to be physical in our bodies, be able to be calm in our mind, all of those things that we do by looking after ourselves as we sit there, prepare, tune in. This is going to be the next best shiatsu. Yeah.
And yeah, that is it. It's the way of being. I do a live every Thursday morning with the gym owner. Now we're very much yin and yang. I'm the yin one. He's the yang. He's an ex-professional cage fighter, and we met through training. And I used to treat him, in lead-ups to fights. I'd go to the fights with him, I'd warm him up before the fight, and then I'd fix him up after the fight. So we've been friends for about 12 years, but he's like 36. He's very strong and dynamic, and and he admits freely he's ADD, and he keeps going. So he's definitely a jump off the cliff, build your wings on the way down type of person, where I'm okay, let's see what's over that cliff there. Let's, what can we plan? Let's get some ropes and we'll tie ourselves off and do it. Yeah, he just jumped. So, in fact, we started doing the lives one day because we were talking about, oh, let's do a live stream sometime. He said, yeah, right now. And that was it. We ran for it. I'm, oh, and he's doing it. So for me, that dynamic, that just do it, and me, the more, okay, let's just think, have a little think, and then proceed. So yeah, he refers to me as his Yoda. And you know, he's my sort of like, yeah, just get out there. He's a Luke Skywalker out there fighting things away. But it's good to have that dynamic in your relationships. Someone who's going to make you feel uncomfortable in order for you to grow. And I think that's another role that we as practitioners have as well. We can't just make our, you know, people we're treating feel comfortable in our presence. I want them to feel safe in my presence. I want them to be able to tell me their deepest, darkest stuff if that's what they want to do, because maybe they're not telling anyone else. But I also want to be able to call them out on their BS, you know, that when they're just telling themselves a story and they're making excuses constantly, because we do see it all the time. I do end up, you know, treating quite a few people who are, you know, overweight, and they train 2 classes a day, and they've been given dietary advice and lifestyle advice, yet they're not changing. But you can see them working so hard when they come to the gym, or even, you know, when they come for a treatment. They'll say all the right things, but you just know they're going away and doing something different. So they're saying one thing and doing something different. So, you know, I have a philosophy. Wouldn't it be such a different world if we all did what we said we're going to do? So if we just did what we say we are actually going to do and do it, we'd have so many different interactions and communication would be far more successful. So I will tell people when I think, look, you know, if you're not going to put in the work, but you expect me to put in the work, that's not a fair relationship as well. And some people just don't like that, and I don't see them again. And, you know, I have a little regret with that, but I think, well, okay, when they're ready, maybe they'll come back as well. So I don't think we all know, and certainly once again, working in a gym environment, we're constantly telling them that, look, you know, growth comes through discomfort, not through comfort. And I see far too many people are too comfortable in their discomfort. So they complain about their lives, but they're comfortable in that discomfort. They're not uncomfortable enough that they're willing to change. So when we work with like people with addictions, and I do a well-being scale when I'm talking to people, and I will generally talk to them and say, well, okay, like on a scale of 1 to 10, let's talk about your state of contentment, your state of well-being in life. And if 10 was feeling blissful and 1 was feeling miserable, I don't want to get out from under my bed covers and face another day, what number pops into your head? And I start to think, I say, no, what number popped into your head? Because I'm sure both of you, a number popped into your head. And that's really where you are. And some people, that'll be a 4. Some people, they'll say they're an 8. And then we look at the range. Well, okay, you know, we live a life of ebb and flow. Some days, what's your lowest you get down to? And they might say, well, you know, I do have some 2 or 3 times, and I do have some 8 or 9 times. I'm very skeptical when people tell me they're a 10, a constant 10, because, you know, that's hard. We're, you know, meditating, we're a Buddhist monk, and we're in a cave somewhere, we're at peace with ourselves and the world. We have so much stress and stuff going on out there to keep that equilibrium, so we want to be up there. Now, when I'm working with someone with addictions and maybe deep depression, I use a different scale, and that scale is -10 to 0, 0 to +10. And I'm, you know, currently working with someone who came in at -8. So -8. That was this person's state of being. They'd been suicidal, had lots of problems with police, etc. Young person. And so that's where we were. And 4, 5, 6 treatments later, this person's now +3. Now, you know, if Kate, you told me you were living at a 3, I'd be, oh wow, Kate, what's happening? I'd have concern. But when someone goes from a -8 to a +3, that's enormous. It's enormous change. And one of the things I discovered with this person, who's very athletic, was that at one stage I said, look, you know, I'm 65, you're 24, right? I'll challenge you to some push-ups. And I beat them in push-ups. And I said, okay, but they loved the process. They went from to, oh, wow, you know, this. And so now this person, part of the therapy, I get them in for half an hour boxing every day. For 2 weeks, that's our challenge. They come in and I do pad holding for this person. Once a week, I treat them. And once a week, I do pad hold. Every day, I do pad holding. Because this is when this person has started to shine and blossom, when they get into their physicality the most. And they take out all that anger and stress on a pair of boxing pads. And so we use whatever tools we've got. And I say to every practitioner is, you know, really get imaginative. Don't feel you just need to be in whatever is you're currently doing. Learn other stuff. And look, you know, I go to a chiropractor, I go to an acupuncturist. The chiropractor actors come to me for treatments as well. So it's all that sort of exchange. We're also continually learning stuff and people's different philosophies. Make sense?
Absolutely, and very inspiring. And I'm just so grateful that you're here in the world doing this work and treating all these people and making a difference in people's lives. And it's great. Have you got any questions?
Well, it keeps me alive.
Yeah. Yeah, alive, interested, curious. Well, have you got any questions for Ray Kumiko?
Oh, it's so inspiring. Such a wonderful talk. Amazing.
Thank you. Now, Kumiko, you said we met in New York at Ohashi's school. That must have been 1986 or 7, I think I may have been in New York then. I went over for a shiatsu and it was a Mantak Chia workshop organised by Sol Goodman. And so I was over there and went to visit Ohashi-san in New York. Wonderful time.
That's where I met. Yes. And you've been trained so many great teachers like Kate and so many others. I'm so happy to meet all of your students. They're just brilliant.
They are wonderful.
And
they are wonderful, and that's our legacy. Kate is creating her own legacy there as well.
And it's quite interesting actually talking about legacy, Ray. We've got a little teacher training. We're meeting week after next. We're doing a residential, so you'll be with us. We've got we need some young teachers.
Good.
So they're younger than us. So yeah, Dawn's coming.
It was always good fun.
Yeah,
always good fun. Our residential workshops. Yeah.
Well, this is a teacher training, and yes, we've got a few new teachers coming through.
Wonderful. So is there any more we want to talk about?
Well, can you show us some exercise, or can you show your secret of movement or
secret? Well, actually, no, what I prefer, the other thing that I go through with every single patient and I teach in all my classes is about posture. So I'm very focused on getting people to have an improvement in their posture. So my assistant has left me, so I can't use her. But I don't know how far I'll get away from here. So the focus is that unfortunately, most people come to us and they're slumping. They're in that kyphotic state, the head tilted forward. Now, if we just, and I exaggerate this for the people I'm working with, if we're in this state all the time, we're in a state of closing things up rather than opening up. So an exercise I end every class with is what we call the starfish. So I get everyone laying on the floor and in a starfish posture, arms wide, legs wide. So an open position, a more passive position, rather than this sort of closed off position. Now, if we just think about it, when we allow the shoulders to slump, we're closing out and we're shutting down the lungs. And so we're inhibiting our lung chi, that emphasis there, unfortunately. And so I get, well, you can't see mine. I'm not tall enough to show you the thumbs, but if you look at someone standing in this posture, their thumbs will be heading in towards the inside of the body because the shoulders are rotating and their thumbs are facing in. And that's just a telltale. I point that out to people and go, look at that. And they go, oh, right. Roll your shoulders back and your thumbs go out. And so really we want the thumbs in neutral. So they're running down the side of the body. So I talk to people about the first stage of the posture is what we call lift. And if they've got hair, I'll pick them up by the back of the head and lift the back of the head up. So the chin goes back and we open up that cervical vertebra. So we're lengthening the meridian channels in that area. So it's the chin back, opening up cervical vertebra, and they can feel that. And the opposite of that is chin tucking down. Now, for every centimetre of forward head movement, it applies 2 to 3 times more pressure on your longitudinal muscles down the back into your sacrum. So head tilt causes lower back problems. And of course, it's affecting and the yang channels in the back having to hold on to try and support the head. So we're stressing muscles, we're stressing channels, we're disturbing the chi flow through the body. So that's that first thing, is that lift the back of the head, bring the chin back. And the next stage is to roll the shoulders back. And so we roll the shoulders back, and I tell them be sternum proud. So the sternum lifts up, goes from being flat to lifting up. Now you'll notice that when you do that, shoulders are back, well, your ribs, those lower ribs are flared. And now in here, you've created a larger vacuum of the lung, the respiratory cavity here. So, as maybe all the therapists know, the average layperson doesn't know. So you've got 3 lobes of lung on your right side, and you've got 2 lobes of lung on your left, because you've got that bothersome thing, that heart organ in there taking up space. So when we roll the shoulders back, we open this up, sternum proud, we're flexing the entire rib cage, expanding it, and so the lung cavity, which is a vacuum, can draw in more oxygen. So every time we breathe out of that intake of breath, we're exchanging 17 to 18% oxygen, retaining that, and then we're breathing out carbon dioxide. So if we've expanded the cavity, we're breathing in more, and therefore we're getting 17 or 18% of more volume. And where's that oxygen going to go? Into the bloodstream. The biggest user of blood in the body is the brain, the central nervous system, and therefore trickle effect through the rest of the body. So just this posture makes you think more clearly. And so, then we've got usually the arch in the back, and the hips tilted forward at the front. So we got that little bit of lordosis going on there. So I tell people, okay, stop yourself urinating. Now, what do you mean? So imagine you're at the toilet and you've got to stop urinating suddenly. It's that pelvic squeeze. It's that tuck. I call it the tuck. It's that lifting up. Your navel goes back towards your spine, and your pelvis have gone from the forward tilt, raising. So you've engaged your abdominal muscles. Now the whole core, and for us, we're thinking of the central channel, the governing vessel, have now stabilized here, and we've got a better circulation of chi through these channels because we're holding ourselves more upright. We've opened up the flow. And so if we're collapsing here, we're compressing all the abdominal viscera. So the organs of middle organs, spleen, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, stomach channel, all that is being compressed, compressing down into the small intestine, the gut, and then compressing down into the genitourinary system. So we're compressing everything. And I'll stand beside my patient, get up right close and say, now imagine that there are 20 of us standing in an elevator. And I say, let's move. Well, you can't move. And that's what you're doing to your own internal organs when you're collapsing. you're limiting movement. We need space to flow. When we're doing jiu-jitsu, if someone's clamping me down, first thing I've got to do is create space. And once I've got space, I can move. If I don't have space, they're pinning me down. So it's all the time about creating space. And so when we do lift, when we do over-enthusiastic here, sorry, when we do the lift, roll and tuck, so lift, chin goes straight back, roll the shoulders, sternum proud, tuck the abdomen, we're opening up all of the organ functions. And so what I tell people all the time is, look, my role is to help your body and you, mind, body, spirit, to become more efficient. So at the end of a shiatsu treatment, some of your organ functions, which are overactive, are going to calm down. Some of your organ functions, which are underactive, are going to be boosted up. So we get that balance of scales. And that means efficiency. An efficient body is an efficient emotional, psychological self as well. So an efficient being is a happier being. And that's what we're looking for, is that connectivity, better communication in the system, chi flow, communication through the nervous system as well. Make sense?
Yep. Yin and yang, Kyo Jitsu.
That's it. It's all about the balance, indeed.
Fantastic.
Where to next?
I should be getting my clients to lift. Tuck.
Yes.
Lift, roll, tuck.
Lift,
Roll, tuck.
So that's
I have a video on it. I have a video of it on my Facebook page and my Instagram page.
We've been chatting for an hour now, so do you want to tell us your
Great.
Facebook and Instagram and all your pages so people can check you out?
Yeah, my Instagram page is Living Longer Younger, and my Facebook page is Living Longer Younger Blueprint. Or you can just go to my personal Facebook page, Ray Ridolfi, Ridolfi. And so they're my various ways where I put up little videos of corrective exercises and little bits of philosophy. And on my personal page every Thursday morning here at 8 a.m. we do a live session. We just talk about topics either people have given us questions about. Last two topics have been about your glutes and how your glutes affect your emotional body. So we go into, got a physical trainer, talks musculoskeletal stuff, and then I bring in the woo-woo stuff, as he says. Yeah.
Wonderful. They give us some tip about food as well.
Food, well, certainly for me, one of my favourite books is by a gentleman called Dr. Tickle. I think it's Tyckle. So real name, Dr. Tickle. He's a conventional medical doctor, but he wrote a book. It's called Fish, Vegetables, Laughter and Sex. That's the title, Fish, Vegetables, Laughter and Sex. And he says, have those four things in as much abundance as you like, everything else in moderation. So, and I thought, well, great, what a wonderful philosophy. So, he's talking about fish and vegetables as a healthier food for us rather than all the other animal foods, and laughter and sex as our, our food for life, in fact, our dynamic passions in life. And so for me, it is all about, I like to think I live a passionate life and bring passion into the things that I'm doing. And so I guess the main thing I would say to people would be around eating whole foods, eating organically as much as possible, getting the balance. Like, for instance, I don't eat any four-legged animals. So I don't eat any mammals. I will only eat fish, so seafood, and I'll eat some chicken as well. And that is that sort of yin-yang dynamic we spoke about, mentioned before, that fish and chicken are further away from us in our dynamic development, our evolutionary development. Like, most of us would not consider eating another human being because they are so close to us. Whereas the fish is the most polar opposite, and therefore the dynamic connection between us there. So for me, I say if they want to eat meat, eat that, but get good quality, preferably organic, to do so. Lots of vegetables more than fruit. So if you have a plate of fruit and vegetables, I would suggest 80% vegetables, 20% fruit. The vegetables, high fibre, low sugar, low carb. The fruit, high fibre, low carb, but higher sugar. So we're just sort of balancing that out. So eating, I guess the most important thing for me about food and diet is chewing. I talk to people a lot about chewing and the dynamic process of that mastication and the enzyme production that goes on in your mouth and the saliva production. So I do follow that Oriental philosophy. I learned it somewhere, is we should only ever drink what we eat. So we should only ever drink, and people go, what do you mean, drink what you eat? So we shouldn't swallow anything until it is liquid in our mouths. So I'm not sure if I've got a little, yeah, so I mean, I have a little lime here. So if I gave that to either of you and say, just swallow that, hopefully you'd give it a bit of thought. You wouldn't just jump off the cliff and build your wings on the way down. You'd give that a little thought and say, no, that's not going to be so good for me. But if I gave you a sunflower seed, you might consider doing that. But even that, if we chew it up and make mastication, the mouth is the first stage of digestion, your stomach organ is going to go, oh, thank you, Kumiko, for taking care of me. Thank you, Kate. That's wonderful. You're taking better care of me, and we don't have so much acidic production going on in the stomach, and we don't get that rebellious stomach chi moving and creating disturbance for people that they quite often get in the heat and heartburn, etc. So I really go to a lot about, and by the time they leave me for a treatment, there are always 3 things they've got to do, or minimum 3. So it's the posture. They've got a mantra, lift, roll, tuck. And I tell them every time you sit down, so as soon as you leave my clinic, you're going to walk to your car, get in the car, lift, roll, tuck. Do that. I want you to drink a glass of water every hour for the next 3 days. So that's like a purification, a cleansing for them, because they're mostly dehydrated. I want you to chew your food until it is saliva. So it's liquid, you chew. And I want you to take 1 minute every hour, every waking hour, and do 1 minute of deep rhythmic breathing. So deep rhythmic breathing. So that's that switch from fight and flight activity, yang activity, to yin, to more parasympathetic nervous system, which is our regeneration time. And so they're the challenges I give them. And then next week I see them. How'd you go? Lift, roll, and tuck. How'd you go? Chewing. How'd you go with your water? 1 glass of water an hour. How'd you go with your 1 minute of breathing every day? And most people fail on most things, but they're now conscious of it and they're doing it a little bit more. And that's what we want. We want them to be conscious of it so that when they're feeling it, something, oh, I can do something. Yeah, it feels better. Okay. So they're the types of things that I will talk about. Now, personally, myself, I do intermittent fasting. So I try and leave a 14, 15, 16-hour gap between my last meal and my breaking fast in the following day. So, and that just depends on your own preferences of what you do. But I will talk to people about, look, would you like to eat something like a cow, this slow, sluggish animal, which is very flighty, or would you prefer to eat something like a salmon, which is determined, swimming up river, going for a goal, that energy of a fish as opposed to the sluggishness of most mammals. And so for me, they might understand that little bit of dynamic energetics of food as well. And then depending on their, the organ imbalances that I see coming up in a consultancy with them, so I might give them advice about, more liver-related foods, or more small intestine, or heart-related foods, or lung foods as well within that dynamic there. Does that answer the question?
Yes, wonderful. Also, could you show us the breathing exercise?
Well, there are many breathing exercises we do. Look, I've sort of chosen a general purpose one that most people find easy to do. And so for instance, after I do my assessment with my my patients. I do a lot of structural assessment, standing assessment, range of movement assessment, get them to lie down, and I lie them down and I say, okay, I'm going to spend a few minutes writing my notes. I want you to start the treatment for me. I want you to breathe, and I'll touch them on their ribs. So maybe they're lying in prone position face down. I'll just touch them on their lower ribs and say, I'd like you to breathe in here. Just expand my hands for a moment. And I'll talk to them about doing a slow inhalation for a count of 4, a hold for 2, and an out for 5. So slow for 4, hold for 2, out for 5. And I get them doing that while I'm finishing off my notes. So they're starting the treatment. Now, for me, I tend to play classical music or very soft piano music in the background, or nature in the background that's going on, which works well in where I'm working till about 4 p.m. when the classes start outside and they start doing banging music. But when I can, light, gentle music. So we're getting them in a space that they can calm down and relax. So the deep rhythmic breathing, the key is the rhythmic breathing. So getting whatever rhythm it is, being consistent with it, that does the switch over from the kidney adrenal fight and flight to the parasympathetic rest, regeneration, digestion. And when I tell them, particularly if they're on a weight loss journey, I tell them this breathing is going to help you lose weight, they get a little bit more enthusiastic. But then also, look, sometimes I bring in you've heard of Wim Hof? Wim Hof, sometimes bring in some of the Wim Hof breathing techniques or other dynamic, belly breathing techniques. So I just, I'll go through 4 or 5 different breathing techniques that I would use regularly, but basic one, in for 4, hold for 2, out for 5. And that's enough of a challenge for most people. We want something they will do rather than say that's too hard and not do. But try it, everyone. 1 minute every waking hour, do a minute of that routine. So you should get, 5 cycles of breathing, and you just go, oh, actually, what happened? My heart rate has gone down. My blood pressure is balanced. My mind feels clearer.
Yeah, it's
and
something
that's the beauty.
I teach it a lot as well, particularly for hormone balancing work, because if our cortisol
Absolutely.
how to balance our whole hormonal system and our nervous system is so connected. If our hormones are out of balance because we're in fight or flight, but to drop into parasympathetic, our hormones can feel more balanced. So with people with strong menopausal symptoms, same thing. Every hour, a minute of breathing, just to calm, slow, rebalance.
Yeah, it is our most essential nutrient, and we pay the least attention to it. We breathe too much, too often. So too often, not enough, low volume, and too often is what we're doing. So we're staying in this sort of hyped state, and that's very important. And then there's things like, look, there are breathing techniques to activate your lymphatic system. And so sometimes I'll teach that, and I'll do a lymph drainage treatment with someone as well. And then I get all the other women in the gym coming up to me and say, oh, you treated such and such, and her bowels are really working effectively now. Can you treat me? So they come for the wrong reason. They come because they're constipated, thinking, I'll just give her a treatment for constipation. No, it's functional energy medicine. I'm going to look at your whole being as such. And that's what I promote. So from heel to head.
Great. What a great talk. I love it.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
So inspiring. So we're going to share with everybody. Wonderful talk.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the process of how this actually goes out as well.
Yes, definitely. Kate, do you have any final questions?
No, I don't really. It's just really inspiring to be in touch with Ray and hear him talking, and I love how he works and how he brings it all together, the anatomy, the movement, the chi work. I think it's fantastic how it all, you know, so
Yes.
rooted in the West. You know, we are Westerners working with this modality in the West, but bringing that ancient lineages and the wisdom of the chi and the yin and yang into the work. It's a whole package, and it's very effective. And it's just a shame that we're all in different parts of the world, and this is a recorded talk rather than a live talk. But I think recorded people will really benefit. That's the only reason why you're not live, Ray, is because you live down under.
That's right. We're all different parts of the world. In fact, funny story. My elder son Ben, who does live in London, recently bought me a set of a virtual headset.
Oh yeah.
You know what a virtual headset is?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And because over there with the lockdown, etc., he and various friends, they've been playing games together using their virtual headsets. So last weekend, the weekend before, we played mini golf together, wearing virtual headsets. And I was very, you know, nah, it doesn't feel right to me. I don't want to be doing this, but we did it. And it was interesting. It brought back the sense of actually being with him rather than just having a conversation. How are you? What's happening? You know, how's work? How's your wife? What's happening? All of that. So all that stuff, we were actually together doing something. And so for me, being together doing something, wow, this is actually quite enjoyable. You know, we planned it for half an hour and we played for an hour and a quarter. And I thought, awesome, yeah, that's great. And in fact, it's his 36th birthday tomorrow. So we have a multiple player mini golf competition going on virtual headsets. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, enjoy.
So we use all the tools we've got to get the most enjoyment out of life, I think.
Yeah. Definitely. That's what we are doing.
Indeed.
And yes, we love shiatsu. We love talk about it. And so many tools, so many layers, so many different angles to approach. And this is such a great inspirational talk. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Kate. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kimiko. That's wonderful. Thank you very much, and good night.
Yeah.
It's wine o'clock here now, so
Enjoy.
9:20 p.m. tonight. So yeah, Saturday night. Enjoy. Who hangs up?
Can we go stop recording? It's great that you've pinned Ray.